This is LBC News.
Lots of talk about the Chancellor's budget on the 26th of this month and what changes to the tax system she might make, with a wide expectation she needs to raise 20 or 30 billion pounds somehow, with some mixture of spending restraint and tax increases. There's always a call for the council tax system to be reviewed. We're going to talk to Andrew Dixon about that, the founder of Fairer Share, an organisation advocating for council tax reform. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. How are you doing?
Yeah, great, thank you. I mean, the council tax system is a bit mad, isn't it? Because it's all based on property valuations, but property valuations from more than 30 years ago.
No, it's absolute shambles, isn't it? I mean, as your viewers will be well aware, it sort of emerged out of the poll tax riots in the early 90s, and unfortunately just hasn't been updated ever since, as you rightly point out. So unfortunately, council tax has become deeply regressive and punishes people up and down the country with high tax burdens for low and middle income households, younger families, and those who live in more modest housing. So ironically, council tax has sort of morphed into the very thing it was trying to replace.
And just talk us through that, because clearly the value of properties in 1990 will not be the same as it is now, but the proportions will be pretty similar. So why is it a regressive tax that's punishing some people?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, let me give you an example. I was having a look at Zoopla, and I came across a £190,000 one-bedroom flat in Thornton Heath in South London. This particular property pays £2,200 a year in council tax, which is equivalent to about 1% of the property value. But then I compare that with a £24 million 7-bed mansion in Westminster. This actually pays less. It pays just £2,000 in council tax, which is equivalent to about 1/100th of 1% of the property value. So in effect, the tax rate on the property in Thornton Heath is 200 times higher than the £24 million mansion in Westminster. And there are many examples of this up and down the country in London and elsewhere.
So part of it is that there are no higher bands. People always want there to be higher bands within the council tax system to raise more money from people with more and more valuable properties. I think there's also an argument that says it penalises people outside the southeast, where property values have risen much more than elsewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think certainly in other parts of the country, property values have not increased as much as they have in, say, London and the South East. So this, in effect, is why council tax is now very much like the poll tax. There's no real correlation to property values, and that's really problematic for local councils and local government finance. Because it's increasingly difficult to fund the budgets, and that's why we're seeing so many councils facing real financial problems.
Easy in a way to say this system is not much good. What would you do instead?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's not just council tax. I think it's stamp duty as well. I think stamp duty is deeply punitive. It hinders mobility, and it locks families into homes that don't really suit their needs. So we at Fairer Share, we're campaigning to scrap both council tax and stamp duty and replace them with a simple, flat, proportional property tax equivalent to less than 0.5% of the current property value. And this would be paid by the owner, not the tenant.
Right, so I'm just thinking through that. Obviously, the Conservatives have announced plans to scrap stamp duty if they're elected to power. But your council tax proposal is to get rid of the current arrangements altogether and replace it with, tell me again?
Yeah, it's what we call a proportional property tax. It's equivalent to less than 0.5% of your property value. And in effect, 76% of households across the country would enjoy a tax cut, average saving about £550 per year. Clearly, those living in larger properties would end up paying more, and quite rightly, I think, carrying more of the burden of this, because I think, unfortunately, as we've said, it's deeply regressive, and council tax deeply and adversely impacts low and middle income households.
What impact would all that have on the property market? Because it would discourage people, moving up and up the property ladder.
Well, I think actually it might do the opposite. I think scrapping stamp duty will actually motivate and incentivize people to move. I think it's a great hindrance, particularly to young families looking to move, whether it be for work or just to move to a property they prefer. And so I really would see it as a real boon for the economy. We did some work with the think tank IPPR a couple of years ago, and they were indicating this would have at least a 4 billion positive impact on the economy as people begin to move. And, we see it in many parts of the country as people are very much locked into properties that don't really suit their needs.
And the overall tax take would be the same, would it?
Yeah, well, you could do it in many different ways. We didn't think it was in our gift to have a tax increase, so we've kept it revenue neutral. But absolutely, if the Chancellor decided she needed to increase taxes, I think you could increase the rate from, say, 0.48% to, say, 0.5% or 0.55%. So there's lots of flexibility here to come up with a budget and a reform that will suit and overcome some of the fiscal challenges that the country faces.
Thank you very much indeed, Andrew. Andrew Dixon from Fairer Share, live on LBC News at 12:27.